All right, hey guys, it's Joel back here with Coach Mike Belly with CrossFit FNA. How you doing, Mike?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing pretty dandy today.
Episode number 2 on the
Ep-
go here.
Episode number 2. We're gonna try something a little more organic this time. See how it plays
Okay.
out. See
All right.
if we can keep ourselves from swearing too much, so I don't have to add any special disclaimers and stuff. But let's see what we can do. All right.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. So today our big topic of conversation is self-talk. We were kind of touching base a little bit before, and we're talking about kind of how right now with everything going on in the world, kind of how important self-talk is becoming. And so I figure why not we hit it up and we'll chat a little bit about it.
Yeah. I think there's a couple good points that we can round out and hopefully point some people in the right direction when it comes to that.
So probably the first thing I think we need to get out is kind of what is self-talk for those that don't really do it, aren't really familiar with doing it.
Yeah, and I think that can, it can take a lot of different forms, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through, hobbies, or whether it's through, going out for a walk, or like even in the middle of a workout. It's self-talk doesn't have to be this, kind of written, hey, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes a day and I'm going to sit and I'm going to self-talk. I think we do a lot of self-talk throughout, our entire days, whether it's choosing what we want to eat for dinner, or like choosing what time we need to get up in the morning, or, what shirt you want to wear today, or whatever. So the
CrossFit FNA shirt on.
Yeah, that's right. So
right there.
Yeah. Without, I think it's just simple. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, keep it simple. Don't look too much into it. Don't think it needs to be like anything crazy. You don't have to Google what self-talk is. Basically it's what are you telling yourself throughout the day when you're faced with, having to make decisions about, about the things that are, going to move you forward for that day. So I think that, that's for me, that's as plain as simple as it gets as far as self-talk goes.
Okay. So my question then is, when we're talking about self-talk, what are the things we're looking to see to ourselves, right? So even if we're looking at something as simple as picking out a shirt because we have a big business meeting coming up, right? Yeah. What's kind of the things we want to tell ourselves when we're looking for that shirt?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I think you could get lost into like, wow, is this too dark or is this too light? Like, what if it's too aggressive or whatever? And I think those all point out negative things. And I think that what's really important is to look at things and look at problems as opportunities for positivity. And so I think I'll use your example of, when you're trying to pick out a shirt, like try to pick something out that makes you feel comfortable, not necessarily what's going to make other people comfortable. What is like, are you going to feel good wearing it? Is it going to bring your best foot forward? And does it bring about a positive connotation to that, rather than we tend to look at problems and look at the negative side of things. And I think self-talk needs to start with, positivity and looking at things as, opportunities, and not necessarily as, potential hurdles or setbacks.
Right. So if we're talking with that business shirt, right, we've picked out the shirt. You know what? I'm looking good. I'm feeling good. I'm going to do great at this business meeting. I'm brushing my teeth. I get toothpaste on my shirt.
Yeah.
That happens to be way too often, by the way.
Yes.
So now what are we looking at? We're looking at, this is the only shirt I've got.
Right.
I've got toothpaste on it. What do I do?
Yeah, and that's a great point, because you're like, okay, like I've bought into this like shirt, like this is the one I felt really good about. And it goes back to kind of what we touched about on our last podcast, where like what happens when that what if happens, like what happens when you're, through 3 rounds of 5 rounds and all of a sudden you hit a wall and you're like, holy crap. Like that's where that plan B needs to come in. And that's where having the proper mindset to be like, hey, you know what? Like that's crappy. Like that was my shirt. And like, I put it out the night before and I ironed it. But being a disciplined athlete, it can mean that you should hopefully be a disciplined human as well. And that's okay. Well, hopefully you've created buffers in your time so that you can grab another shirt, fix it up. It might not be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, but ultimately we need to get to the end goal. How we get there doesn't really matter. It's it's the whole point of the journey, right? So
we're kind of adapting that game plan then. We're kind of making that we're making that adaptation with our self-talk. We're saying, hey, you know what, this happened, it sucks, but I got to figure something else out. I gave myself 15 extra minutes to figure something out.
Yeah. And that, that buffer might have been your like, okay, like I was going to grab a coffee on the way there, or I was going to maybe like listen to a podcast, and like maybe now that 15 minutes is gone, but it's like, that's okay. Like that was your buffer. And that was like, if you had the extra time, you were going to do something cool and productive with it, but now you don't. And that's all right. But that's, you talk about adapting, like isn't that what 2020 has been for all of us, right? Like,
I think that's all it's been. Adapt after adapt after adapt.
I mean, I'm sure we all had plans, right? Like we all had, I don't know. Like I had plans, like I had plans to go to Can West with athletes and do all of that. And it's like, it's not happening. Right. So it's like, you can self-talk your way into being like, this is unfair. And like, I'm not going to get my money back. And like, I've invested all this time in my athletes and now they're not going to believe in me. And like that self-talk can quickly flip into like some really, really negative thoughts. And but you can't do that, because it can compound in, especially if you have like, maybe you get toothpaste on your shirt and then something else happens and then something else happens. And then all of a sudden you start to feel sorry for yourself. And it's like none of those things are in your circle of control.
Yeah. So you almost start compounding all those little negative things into one big thing, kind of one of the big things I actually learned from my significant other recently was, it's not a bad life, it's a bad day. And then if you break that down further, it's like, well, it's not a bad day, it's a bad hour. And it's not a bad hour, it's a bad moment. And then you keep breaking it down. It seems smaller and smaller the more you go into the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah. It's you always got to ask yourself, like, is this going to matter to me in 5 years? And if the answer is like, no, then it's like, it's not a big deal. And, but we're creatures of habits. We don't necessarily like confrontation. We like to be comfortable. And so when we have these, we have like our days planned out and things don't go according to plan, like that's kind of why we do CrossFit. Like every day when we're in the gym, like we are faced with some kind of challenge. Like that's what our regime does, is it challenges us daily against the norm, so that not only do we become better physically, but we also become better people, because it's like, if you've ever done the workout Fran and you have to like go and shovel snow because there was a snowstorm, you're just like, whatever, at least I don't have to do Fran today. Like that's, or like
nothing compares.
If you've ever been on an assault bike for like 100 calories as a buy-in, and you're like, nothing else really, like you're like, oh, like I have a flat tire, like whatever, like
I'll gladly change a tire over going on the bike for 100 calories easily any day of the week.
Yeah, same. Like
100 tire changes for time.
Yeah.
No, that's it's a good way, I guess, to kind of segue that now when we're looking at it. Being into like our gym and being in CrossFit and everything like that, then that's kind of where you have this environment that it's very positive. You can always have people in your corner, and at the same time, it's very easy to get down on yourself and bring about that negative self-talk, right? You didn't sleep the night before, and this WOD that you hit 2 months ago, you had a great time, and all of a sudden now you're 2 minutes slower.
Yeah.
And so what are we telling ourselves when we're facing that situation. Like, what on earth? Why am I slower? Is it something I'm doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? And I think that's kind of the thing that a lot of people jump to right away, right? What did I do
Yeah.
wrong?
And it's funny because regardless of whether or not you were like, 20 seconds faster or 3 minutes slower, you're still going to get high fives. People are still going to want you to write your score on the board. Like Jeff and Sally, like really don't care. Like, the community is there regardless of, success, or call it, failure or challenges or whatever. And you might tell them like, man, I rocked this wad last time and I did it today. And they might be like, yeah, that's like, it is what it is. Like, I had to put my dog down last week and I'm having a shitty week too, right? And it's like, oh, you kind of put it into perspective, like maybe not everybody's having a great wad, you know what I mean? But it's like we're all in it together, and it makes you kind of reevaluate, like, hey, like, oh, my self-talk kind of sucks. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I really need to kind of to button that down. So
I think that's kind of one of the big things I've noticed too, just from following some of the games athletes, is you'll watch them, if they struggled with a wad or a movement, they'll be the first ones to call themselves out on it, and they'll just say, you know what, I sucked at that movement, but I've just got to get better.
Yep.
And it's kind of almost a shift, because I think a lot of people, especially with missing a PR, they're just first thing, it's like, oh, I should have been able to do that. I should have been able to do that. And I know even for me personally, I kind of go into that self-destructive zone where I'll spend hours just doing the same movement, trying to get it right. And it might not even be the problem, right? And that's kind of...
Yeah, and I think to kind of segue off of that too, like I think a lot of athletes in our sports welcome challenges that they've never done before. And I can think of, one year there was a female athlete, and her gym didn't have a pegboard, and she had literally never climbed a pegboard before, but still qualified for the CrossFit Games, and was faced with that challenge, during a workout at the games, like on the main stage. And you can probably only imagine like what her self-talk was even going into that workout, but then even getting to that portion of the workout, and her still attempting essentially as many, pegboards as she could before finally getting time capped, I think speaks to how like we're a little bit different in the mentality and our approach, in the sense that we're like, hey, I can't do that. And so like, I'm actually like looking forward to trying it. And I feel like, I feel like we were all kind of brought up that it was like, Jimmy can't skate, so Jimmy's going to go and maybe play some of the summer sports like basketball and football, where our sport, it's kind of like, well, Jimmy can't skate, like let's get Jimmy on some skates, and like let's at least make him like relatively decent. He doesn't have to be like the best skater in the world, but like that's, like, don't you feel like that's kind of true? Or like, hey, you're not good at math, and so like you're not good at math, so let's focus on this. And it's like, and I feel like our sport, and I'm so thankful that kids have the opportunity to start at a really young age in our sport, that they're just like, they're like amazing at gymnastics, and like I'm just like, you're gonna be so well rounded in life that like, yeah, I don't know, like if you need to like backflip your way out of getting eaten by a zombie, like you're gonna be fine, because your gymnastics is like, like your gymnastics
just bar muscle up away, you're gone.
Yeah, like yeah, I don't know, like that just gets me fired up. And I think that and I think that goes back to that self-talk, in the sense that it's like, like I might not be up for this challenge, but I'm gonna try it, and I know I'm gonna learn something from it.
Well, it's kind of interesting you bring that up, right? Because it's true. If you think when you're a kid, when you're trying to make a jump on your bike, you look at this and you're like, this is huge, and then everybody's like, oh, just do it. So you do it. Yeah. Even if you fail at it, you're gonna do it again and do it again and do it again until one time you get it, and every other time. But then as we get older, we tend to kind of shift towards this idea. It's like, well, I couldn't get it the first time. It's just not for me.
Yeah, we tend to be a little bit more protective the older we get. Why? Because we have more responsibilities, right? Like they say kids are fearless, and it's not necessarily because they're not intelligent. Kids are very intelligent, but they don't have to go to work on Monday. They don't have bills to pay. They don't,
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like if, for example, like with you, like being a first responder, like if you decided to pick up skateboarding and broke your leg, like, well,
Yeah.
that's kind of not a great, that wasn't maybe a great life choice. And so at the older we get, we are a little bit more reluctant to take chances. And I see that a lot, of course, because people come in and they're like, oh, I haven't skipped in like so many years. I haven't climbed a rope since gym class. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to climb a rope, and it might be heavily modified, but you're going to get your hands on a rope. And you might even surprise yourself, and that's what we want. Like we want to be able to get people to go where they couldn't go on their own, and we help. We obviously help with self-talk, and I definitely help develop that, and it's not easy, but there's some tips and some tricks that you can do that to help things out for sure.
So if you were sitting at the bottom of that rope, you're looking up at it.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? Part of me says I can do this. Part of me says I can't.
Yeah.
And that's where your self-talk's coming to dial in.
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself? What would you tell somebody? You got to talk yourself into this.
Yeah, and great question. And that's changing the mindset from looking at things as opportunities rather than potential failures. Changing little things like I have to versus I get to, right? And I think that when you kind of, and at that exact moment, you don't have the opportunity to take that, that 10,000 foot approach where, you're envisioning yourself sitting at the top of a mountain, looking down at your life and being like, okay, like I can really sit back and look and evaluate. At that moment, you don't have that opportunity because it's like there's somebody behind you waiting to use the rope, and you're like, okay. But that's being like, okay, like I get to try this. Like I have arms, and I'm fortunate to be able to try it, and so I'm gonna try it instead of being like, oh, I have to go to the gym today. It's like, no, you get to go to the gym today, and that is a small piece of self-talk that helps changing, have tos into I get to. Changing things into I won't instead of I can't, right? So, hey, like I can't hang out with you tonight. I have stuff to do. It's like, no, you just don't say it. Don't say I can't. Say I won't. Like I won't hang out with you tonight because I have stuff to do. And if you saying that makes you feel bad, you probably are. You're probably breaking plans for no reason. And so, just having that small shift in some of those the wording of, that can really, really help for sure with self-talk.
I think that's kind of an amazing way to put it when you explain it, just that little change. I know one of the things that comes in the book, A Champion's Mind by Jim Aftermau, he brings out the point when you're trying for something and you miss it the first time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's fine, but I'll get it on the next 2 times.
Yeah.
So now you've already changed it from I failed that one to, well, I'm going to get 2 out of 3. And
Right.
2 out of 3 is pretty good. Yep. And so I know even when it comes to something as simple as missing a PR, it's now, or you miss a lift and it's like, well, I missed that one, but you know what? I'm going to get the next 2. Yeah. And next thing you know, it's amazing. I've done it with myself, and you can watch it just flip. You right away, you're just, the next 2, I've gotten them. Right. And it's kind of it's an interesting way to change that mindset from a negative one to being like, well, there's still a positive somewhere in it. I just have to find it.
Yeah. And I remember Matt Fraser one year said, like, it was either something in regards to running or some kind of skill and he was so excited. He's like, great. Like, he's like, I have a weakness. Awesome. Now I have something to work towards. And he didn't say it in a way that he was like, I am like so good at everything else. He said it in a way that he was like, I am so happy that I am deficient at something, because now that means that I can just like grind. And that's the hunger for growth. And that's the hunger for the constant grind. And like, especially in these difficult times, like we really have to try to look forward to tomorrow in the sense of like, what can I work on tomorrow to move the needle a little bit? It doesn't have to be a lot, but just anything. Um, and the self-talk really helps. Like I get to work out today, or like I get to go to work while I know other people are not working. And so just little things like that, have tos into get tos, and I can't versus I won't, and just little things like that, and how you word it can really make a difference. Like, and you'll hear yourself say it, and you'll be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So does that change kind of your narrative when you're looking forward to doing something, right? So you're looking forward to the workout tomorrow is Murph, your favorite workout.
Yeah.
You've prepared for this for a year, and all your friends are saying, "Hey, let's go out, let's celebrate the night before." You
Yeah.
really want to go out drinking. What's kind of where's that self talk falling, right? Because now you have a tough decision between two things you really want to do.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's. So let me ask it to you that way. So how are you going to talk yourself into almost prioritizing it and then choosing which way to go?
Yeah. So on the one side, you have your friends, which who knows, maybe you don't see them very often, or like, maybe everybody's able to get together, and that's really rare. Like, and so then you're like, oh, but tomorrow's Memorial Day, and it's Murph, and like what am I gonna do, right? And so it has to come down into like, what are your core values, like putting the first things first. And like if Memorial Day and doing Murph is like something that you truly believe in, and like it's something that you're on like year number 5 consecutive, then I think the decision's been made. I think that decision's been made. That's more important. And then you have to tell your friends, like, I'm sorry, like I won't be coming out tonight because I have this tomorrow. And you'll be able to take a deep breath, like knowing that you didn't come up with an excuse. You didn't tell them you couldn't, because like, how many times have your friends been like, I can't come out tonight, like I have like so much homework. As soon as somebody says they can't do something, we automatically as humans feel attacked. We feel like that's an attack on us, and we also feel like it's an excuse.
Yeah,
automatically.
Absolutely.
We're like, oh, they can't, so that's an excuse. But when somebody says I won't, that means that there's some they're personally attached to being like, I actually won't. If somebody tells you they won't do something, that won't means no. Can't doesn't necessarily mean no. Can't just is perceived by us as like, I'm either lazy or there's something more important. That's what can't means. If you can't do something, that means there's something more important. If you won't do it, it means that you're like, I won't do that. And it's like, okay. And so that's where that distinction needs to happen. And if you've never done it, I obviously I know that you do it, but for people that are listening, try that. Try it one time. Try to tell somebody that you won't do something because something is more important. Nobody's going to question you on that. And if they do, then you need to start reevaluating your environment.
That circle. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of truth to that statement, especially with saying you won't do something and versus you can't. It's a world of a difference. And
or you could say,
like,
or you could say like, I will go, but I'm not going to drink, and I'm only going to stay out until midnight or something. So if you guys need a driver, like I'll be available to drive some of you guys home, but Murph is tomorrow, and like I'm going to do it at 10 a.m. And so like I want to get a good night's sleep. And I think if I told any of my friends that, they'd be like, yeah, we're doing Murph with you tomorrow. So, you know what I mean?
Let's all do Murph like that. Yeah.
That's my circle, right? And so it might be time to reevaluate, who is in your corner.
Absolutely, right. That's the people that want to see you be successful in the things, right? Have that understanding for you, and I think, and that's, again, it breaks down to that self-talk and that conversation you want to have with yourself
Yep.
as to, is this really going to push the needle? Is it going to be what's my priority to myself, right?
Yep.
All those questions you start asking yourself. Well, Murph is my thing. Murph is what I want to do. That's what my goal is. Like, hey, you know what? I won't hang out with you. I want to do Murph. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
It's incredible way to look at it. So now, if we're going to talk kind of about where we prioritize everything, now what's kind of our self-talk when there's something we really want to do? So now we have every plan in the world to do Murph.
Yeah.
We've set ourselves up for weeks in advance.
Yeah.
We've made sure not to go out drinking. We did all these things right, and you get up that morning and you twist your ankle.
Right.
What's our self-talk now?
Well, there's nothing wrong with having the emotion, right? The emotion's important. So you're probably going to feel anger. You're probably going to feel disappointment, especially if, maybe it's something your gym did every year. And, your friends are waiting for you, and you're in the first heat, and you're in the RX heat, and you're like, I'm going to crush my time. And yeah, you get out of your car and you bust your ankle. And so have the emotion. Don't, it's not a suffer in silence kind of thing. It's like, you can be angry to some degree. Like, you don't need to smash your car by any means, but like have the emotion. And then, then you need to ask yourself, like, okay, like, I can't do Murph today. That doesn't mean you can't do it this year. It doesn't mean that you can't do it 3 weeks from now. And so, can I be of value or service to whether it's your affiliate or whether it's someone else doing Murph? Maybe you let somebody like borrow your vest. Maybe you have like a lucky patch that you like to wear on your vest. Maybe you like give that to a new member that might just make their day. Maybe you do timekeeping. Like maybe you're in charge of getting like food and you can definitely, like, once again, like, you can self-talk yourself out of like, well, yeah, I'm going to stay home. I twisted my ankle and that's it. Or you could self-talk your way into being like, I can't do it today. I'm sure I'll be able to do it again. And if I can't, like, I'm happy for all the other times I've done Murph. And yeah, and that's kind of the way to like look at it, in my opinion.
I think that's kind of a good point too, because you're going from having people in your corner to being in somebody else's corner, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's a new member, their first time doing Murph, maybe they're a little nervous doing it.
Totally.
You got who's hurt, plan to do it. It's like, hey, you know what? Do a great job. Go and encourage them. Do what you can, right? You don't have to. And it's kind of interesting to have kind of see that flip of being in somebody else's corner in a good way. And I know too personally from my experiences, when you say about having that emotion and not kind of fighting that emotion, as I know I've had my workouts where I've gotten quite angry at myself and quite angry at how it played out, and you kind of let me have that emotion, and then after a little while you come up to me and it's like, okay, well, it's done, it's over, time to move on. Go do this, go home, do this, come back tomorrow.
Right.
And that's it. You know, and it's then that's kind of almost that having somebody kind of reset you, right? Just kind of reset where you're at and to say, hey, you know what? You gotta move on. It's time, it's over. Right? So kind of a good thought there.
Yeah.
I like that. But.
And I mean, you see that and I know you want to wrap up soon, but you see that in professional sports too. Like, football players will come out and, like, half casts, and they'll still have their shoulder pads on, and they're helping their fellow quarterback or their fellow line mates or whatever. Like, they got headsets on and they're trying to help out with plays. Like, they understand that even though they are injured, they still offer value. And so you see it all the time. That's, my opinion, like those are leaders, right? Those are people that are like, hey, I'm injured. Like I could easily just like lay in the locker room and like watch the game on TV, or like I could drive home or like whatever. But it's like, hey, like whatever, like even if we lose the game, like I could still potentially like help a rookie like make a big play, or like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, it's a great thought. I was listening to Kobe Bryant earlier, and he made the same point. He said that the game's bigger than yourself, and in like this
yeah,
case, he was missing every shot because he said, well, he just wasn't used to the amount of games they were playing. He wasn't used
right.
to an 82 game season, and so that's where he kind of had that conversation with himself. He said, okay, I know I can shoot the ball, I know I can get it on track. I just got to get my legs there, and so he
Right.
kind of tailored everything. It was kind of a and and that kind of goes back to what you're saying. It's almost the game's bigger than yourself, right? When
Yeah,
we're
of
in the same
course.
way, it's as
Yep.
individual as it is. It's its own team sport. That
Yep.
hey, you know what? This is bigger than ourselves. Let's encourage the new people. Let's encourage my training partner, who
Yep.
I know has also been working as hard as me. Let's make them beat
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of an interesting way to look at that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. Good. I feel better. I feel better about my self-talk already.
Do you? Do
Yeah.
you? You're gonna
Yeah.
practice it a little more?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, previous to some negative self-talk.
I think everybody is to a degree, right? It's
Like,
just
yeah, we're on day number 80. I don't really know like where the affiliate is going. Um, you know, we're not losing members, but we're like, people are like, hey, it's summer, I'm going to do my own thing, and like there's no gym, and it's like you can't blame people for that. And like, and a lot of our members are like, we'll be back, and it's like, yeah, that's going to be tough. Like it's going to be tough to get people back into a routine. And
yeah.
I've had some negative self-talk about being like, well, I might as well just like close my doors and just like, I don't know, go golfing or something. And it's like, but you can't. And then I tell myself like, okay, I'm going to tell my members that like I won't do at home workouts for them. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do that. So
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
soon as I say it like that, I'm like, that's not me. I won't do that. Like I can't tell them that. Like that means that I'm being lazy. Like I can't. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I'm not previous to it. I do it all the time. It's just I think being aware is really important, and I think hopefully some of those things that we talked about today can are just really really easy things to at least make you more aware of what you are saying to yourself, and even what you're saying to yourself, how that relates to what is actually coming out of your mouth. So.
Yeah, a lot of times it can be as simple as thinking like, yeah, I got a lot of people carrying my flag. Like I need to do my part, and I need to do this, and
Yeah.
or I'd want to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. I think it's a good message to kind of leave that off, where we want to be positive about the way we speak about ourselves, and
Yep.
even when it starts going negative, like I said, find if it's a person to help you reset,
Yeah.
if it's music, whatever you need to kind of reset yourself and say, okay, I got this, let's do it.
Yeah. Totally.
You know,
Love
yeah.
it.
So I'll leave it like that, unless you have something else to add.
No, that was good. Yeah.
All right.
It's awesome.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get episode 2 up here right away, and away we go.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Joel.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, bye.
Bye.